Hello citizens! In the latest patches, the developers have finally revealed their vision for the insurance system for ships and equipment. So I decided to make a video breaking down the game core economic mechanics. I'll be covering both the current state of the economy and what it will look like in patch 1.0. Let me start by saying that I'm not a game designer or an economist, and my opinion is based solely on a couple of articles I will read. Also, I will never play starcitizen. To begin with, starcitizen can be viewed as a sandbox MMORPG, which means that its economy must be designed with this framework in mind. So where does the economy start, and how do players print money in starcitizen? The main ways to earn money are by completing mission and selling resources and equipment to merchants. Essentially, these are our primary sources of income. Let's take a closer look at some of them. Let's take the mission to destroy Idris as an example. One way to destroy him is with torpedoes 7 of them, costing 1.7 million each. All in all, we end up with a list of certain mandatory expenses, then their source of fuel, potential repairs, and medical expenses. In summary, we see that the players want to reserve at least that IFOE plus a certain amount, which they deem sufficient as a reward for the mission. This reward already factors in the value of the player's time, meaning the players expect to receive a higher reward based on the time spent on the mission. If a mission requires a higher entry level, and the destruction of Idris is essential such a mission, then players also expect an additional bonus. This also includes building reputation with the organization, which will be a subjective metric, because players don't always understand its value. All in all, for the current cycle, we have roughly the following breakdown of the players' expected earnings from the mission. However, as far as I know, this mission only yields 4 million. Why is that? Well, for one thing, the mission can be completed using methods other than torpedoes. If they really want to, players can even board the ship and blow it up from the inside. This would be significantly cheaper and cut the cost by a factor of several. Second, we should discuss the actual flow of this mission, as I believe the developers intend it to be. Here, we should assume that Maelstrom has already been introduced into the game, so it's much easier to achieve a soft death for the ship. This means the ship's entire cargo and crew will be preserved, so they'll need to add the player's total income, which will increase from the sale of cargo, equipment and components. Yes, this will take more time and effort, but it will also yield potentially higher income. Next, salvage players must dismantle the ship and sell or use the materials, thereby realizing their value. And as you will probably realize it, yes, this chain of events isn't designed for solo play, because boss rates aren't meant to be soloed. Much of the game is gradually shifting toward work within a large organization, and that's a good thing for this genre. Ultimately, if we add the amount we'll receive for the remaining stages to our base price of 4 million, it turns out that this total will most likely cover all our expenses. Well, that's just a raw estimate, of course. Trying to guess what will happen down the road is a bit of a shot in the dark. It's also worth keeping in mind other activities, mining, farming and others that will become available sooner or later. All of this can generate income for us to some extent. Just type quick money starcitizen into your YouTube and you'll find out how to earn 819 jump in a single evening. Sure, it's a bit of a grind, but has that ever stopped players? Next, let's take a look at craft. At this point, it's expected that this will be the very thing we'll be willing to grind for in various areas. Crafting will draw on our resources from all sectors and tie them together. Currently, crafting is available for some armor, weapons and components, but in the future, it will also allow players to build structures and starships. Crafting is considered high-end content in the game. To access it, you must grind, gather resources, and either farm or purchase blueprints. Crafting doesn't directly generate currency on its own, but it makes completing any mission easier and faster, improves performance in PvP content, and can also generate income through the auction house. However, I hope that the developers will somehow be able to balance out what could be described as purchasing resources with currency. Currently, it has been announced that ships can be dismantled into the resources from which they were made. Accordingly, it is important to understand that insurance can restore a ship to its original state, and it is crucial to prevent the possibility of a player summoning ship, having it salvaged by another player and then summoning it again, which would allow the having it dismantled by another player and then summoning it again, which would allow them to convert currency into invested resources. And the next topic, which should become the most important milestone in the economy, is auctions. This is undoubtedly one of the most crucial aspects of the economies in MMORPGs, and allows players to gauge just how far inflation has progressed in the game. Through the auction, players will be able to sell both regular and crafted gear. Ultimately, the auction should serve as a converter of currency into gear of resources. As for auctions, I have some questions about how they will be implemented. In most games, the auction house is a permanent feature that you can access from the menu via special terminal or through an NPC. But in StarCitizen, they promise to open auction on Nevsky, on ships and in player cities. In that case, one perfectly logical question remains. What's the point for a player to search for the exact location of a vending machine in a certain city, or to track where Kraken or management is currently operating, if they can just go to Nevsky and pay there? If these are unrelated sales locations, then we can only hope that CIG will implement convenient tools for finding this very location. Otherwise, there will be a lot of problems. But even so, players will still wonder why should I fly somewhere else instead of Nevsky, a place that might not be as convenient for me, and there aren't really many options. The royalty commission will be significantly higher than anywhere else, which will force people to switch to a different auction site due to excessive price difference, or all the auctions will be merged after all. But when they buy Kraken and Merchantman, if no one is going to use them, or will attendance once again depend on players creating trading events who will organize these events, as is currently the case. At this point, we covered all the main sources of income in StarCitizen, so let's put together the full chain. Players earn IFOX from missions as well as from selling loot, obtaining troj, mining and salvaging. When troj crafting items are created, they are listed on auctions, thereby generating even more money for specific players. But the game also needs a constant drain on players' resources. And currently this includes ongoing expense for consumables, such as fuel, ammunition and medical supplies, periodic costs for ship, insurance, bases and equipment, as well as potential costs for leasing land for cities. Additionally, there might be temporary events that force you to buy certain resources and ultimately give you less in return, or quests where you will be forced to pay for reputation. And for this system to function properly, it is essential to strike a balance between the amount of resources players obtain from various sources and the amount they are forced to spend. And that's why I hope the developers will be able to balance this whole massive system. I hope in a game of this scale, there will always be the temptation to hit the print money button. That said, it's not as if the developers want to stop you from having fun. They want and need to strike a balance in the game so it doesn't die out after a couple of months because the economy has collapsed. So you should appreciate the developers' efforts to set reasonable amounts for insurance and expenses, even if they seem excessive to you. In addition, this makes each player's life more available, because if you die, it will cost you a lot for repair, your ship and equipment, which means you do everything you can to survive. And so we have to come to the video's title. So why is wipe a good thing? A full wipe, including a reputation wipe, allows developers to get a complete picture of the current economic landscape, how players will progress from scratch to a certain specific point in the game, earning their first million, their first 10 million, the ratio of income to expenditure, which paths they will take, how they will level up their reputation, which is also an important aspect of the economy that we didn't delve into in this video. So this wipe will give developers a glimpse of what patch 1.0 would look like if it were released right now. How long will the economy remain balanced, how quickly will inflation set in, and so on. This will allow them to fine-tune the economic balance again as needed. A wipe is an essential tool for diagnostic the state of the game, allowing us to literally keep our finger on the pulse. And while it's important for players, it's incredibly important for the game and its future. I'd also like to mention in-game purchases. They're an integral part of the game's economy, and right now I'm personally perfectly fine with them, but there's an issue related to crafting. As far as I know, the developers want to let players build a separate craftable ship rather than upgrade an existing one. On the one hand, this will allow players who don't buy ships to be on equal footing with those who do. On the other hand, every time you enter your hangar, you see a duplicate of the ship, that very ship you once bought, but can no longer use because you recrafted another one. And yes, the solution to this problem is obvious. Allow players to upgrade their purchased ship, with resource savings or significant discount on the materials required for the base upgrade. Pay to win, you might say. Pay to dream, I will reply. And overall, the current insurance and warranty system will only give you an advantage at the start, but then sooner or later everyone will switch to crafted gear and will be forced to pay insurance in the event of death. And with that, we will essentially wrap it up the economic aspects of this game. We will broken down the economic chain to some extent, discussed why it's so important to have high prices for insurance and the consumables. And I hope you now understand that the game's economy still has a long way to go before it reaches a certain balance. So I want to wish the developers at CRG Studio all the best and every success. Feel free to wipe the game whenever you need to. Thank you for creating this wonderful project for us. Well, my dear fellow citizens, I wish you all the best. Please leave comments on where the author was wrong. See you soon, bye for now.